Alright, welcome ladies and gents to my review of episode 1 and 2 of Lord of the Rings of Power. This is of course Amazon Prime's new series, most expensive series ever created, like $1 billion or something insane. I was going to break this down as to 2 reviews, episode 1 and episode 2, but I thought I would just kind of save you all of that, I guess. Look, I guess there's a few ways of looking at this. Like, I personally didn't think this was particularly good. Like, at all, really. Now, I've read the books, and I know, parts of the lore. So I know that a lot of what's being stated here is fabrication just for this series. Now, I really liked the films. Peter Jackson did a fantastic job with the films, so they're really, really good. And like, a lot of this isn't just comparing it to the films, a lot of this is comparing it to the books. So I will say straight off the bat, before I get into my personal thoughts about this show, is that if you're not, I don't even want to say purist, but if you're not familiar, there you go, you're not familiar with the world, because you don't even have to be a purist. If you're not familiar with the world, you might like this. That's the best thing I can say. Now on to my review. I didn't like this show. We have an actress in Morfydd Clark who plays Galadriel, who is really good as an actor, but is terrible in this. Really bad. Like, wide eyes, weird eyes, freaky eyes, all the just. I don't know what happened to her. Incredibly unlikable. And it's sad to say it because she's a good actor. But I tweeted this out. Follow me over on Twitter at Missed Reviews. Just Galadriel is incredibly unlikable because she really is. There's no ethereal nature to her. She's very stern. Overly stern. And a lot of this stuff is just fabricated, just make-believe. She's not a warrior. This isn't who she is. Her power was so wide-ranging, she didn't need to do stuff like that. Not everyone has to be a warrior. And they made her like a substandard version of not even herself. The whole first episode is basically all from Galadriel's perspective. Tiny little bit from the Harfoots, but predominantly from Galadriel's perspective, and she's incredibly unlikable. The direction she was given was just awful. And as well, a lot of the dialogue is really bad. Genuinely, really bad. So we open with Galadriel as a young girl, little girl, kid, being teased by some other elves, and then her brother steps in, and then we start to learn about the world, Morgoth and things like this, and the Great War, how it took her brother, and then how she vowed to finish her brother's work, essentially track down all the orcs and the power and Sauron, etc. That's setting the stage, right? Stage is set. And then we flash forward to her and her band of elves tracking down Sauron. And really dumb dialogue. We shouldn't be looking where even the sun fears to tread. Yes, you should. What are you doing? That's quintessential evil, is it not? Oh, the sun doesn't want to tread there. Whoa! It's probably where evil is, isn't it? Don't you think? I would say so. And then lo and behold, they do continue onwards. Right? Galadriel pushes them on. Oh, what's there? Oh yeah, evil. What happened to the wise elves? Like, what? And honestly, the dialogue is just real bad. Like, it's not... Yeah, it's not especially good. And there's a lot of overacting. Again, I can't quite put my finger on what is up with Morfydd Clark's Galadriel. You won't see any footage, by the way, because Amazon just copyright block stuff. Yes, there'll be other people, whatever. I'm not interested in dealing with it. But I don't know quite what is up with Morfydd Clark and why she's so unlikable. Whether it is the mannerisms, whether it's the direction, whether it's just overacting. But it's terrible. You know? And they face off against a snow troll, which we see in the trailer. Her band of elves do nothing, get tossed around, thrown around. And then she walks in, and you would have seen the clip run around on Twitter, where one of the other elves puts their sword down. She stands on the sword, flips it. Yeah, he flips her up on the sword, and then she takes down the snow troll entirely single-handedly. What point are your band of elves at? What's the purpose? Are they just there to keep you company? I don't get it. You know? There's nothing essential about the company you keep. It was really odd. Just, yeah, terrible depiction of Galadriel. And then we move on to some other characters like Lenny Henry. Fine, I guess. You know, Lenny Henry, British comedian, playing a half-foot, like a half-foot elder. The Harfoots are hobbits, just as an FYI. They're not allowed to call them hobbits because they don't have the right to. They don't have the rights to call them hobbits. Right? They're not allowed to call them hobbits. From the best of my research on this, and we're introduced to Nori, this young Harfoot. Interesting character. Not overly sure why all the Harfoots are disgusting and dirty. Like, they don't all have to be filth-laden. And it looks like, a lot of this stuff looks like they're trying to go very specifically with the Peter Jackson aesthetic, which I know a lot of people will question. Well, Peter Jackson was, you know, doing Tolkien, so is this right? What are they trying to do? You got to remember is that the Amazon Prime showrunners for this did specifically say they're not trying to copy Peter Jackson. You're doing a very good job of it whilst not trying, basically. So Nori, star falls from the sky. Don't know who it is yet. Probably Gandalf. It's either Gandalf, Saruman, or Sauron, but probably not Sauron. But it's one of the wizards, basically. So she defies all odds and starts trying to help. Maybe Gandalf. Probably Gandalf. Or maybe Radagast. Because it starts talking to fireflies. And that's basically her story. Her story is quite literally a Bilbo Baggins or a Frodo Baggins. Oh, there's greater things for me out there than just being with my people. I want to go and explore and have an adventure. It is literally the same story. Elrond. Interesting. Playing a politician in this, essentially. The actor was fine, but again, I don't know whether it's the blend of music or sound design or the actors themselves, but a lot of this feels like it's missing something. You know, like there's a lot of sort of thespian language being put out in the dialogue. Not super thespian, but you know, it's kind of there. And in Peter Jackson's, you know, The Lord of the Rings, and also just the books themselves, it comes across so much better, more refined. Now, obviously, in the books, you're reading it, you're putting it across yourself. But in Peter Jackson's, whether it was a combination of the sound design, there was a gravitas to when they were talking, or it just worked. This, I feel like it's missing that. And unfortunately, this is a series which undoubtedly will get good views, right? Just because of the name, it'll get good views. But they're damned if they do and they're damned if they don't. Because people will absolutely just keep comparing this to the movies. And I feel like because you are literally making this stuff up as you go along, it's not an adaptation. They're just making a lot of this stuff up. Why did you even bother? But anyway, Elrond, weird characterization in this. Plays a politician. Goes to Khazad-dûm, you know, the mines of Moria. To go and Go see Prince Durin to get his help for presumably building a forge. Well, they are building a forge. Celebrimbor wants to build a forge, presumably to forge the rings. I don't know. This is an interesting sort of tale because they're trying to hunt Sauron, but they haven't got the rings yet. But Sauron did convince them to make the rings in the first place anyway. I need to go back and look at the lore, whether it was Sauron as Sauron or Sauron as Anatar, but they don't have the rights to Anatar. So I'm a bit confused to who's going to be trying to build the rings. It's kind of all over the place. Now, Ishmael Cordova Cruz, I think the actor's name is, who plays the elf who has a son with a human. Fine actor, doing a relatively decent job with pretty light material, you know, to kind of sink his teeth into. The boy, crap actor, didn't like him. Very, very, very disappointing. And on a whole, you know, they're trying to... Tolkien made a very specific point of saying any allegories are purely coincidental. I don't like allegories. I'm not trying to write this for an allegory, right? That's, you know, not paraphrasing, but that is what Tolkien said. And in this, you can see that there's tensions between elves and man. And the first elf, the only elf that you see being spoken to in that way, up until Galadriel, sort of, is a black elf. So you're like, well, they're clearly doing, you know, a racial allegory here. And I get that there were tensions, etc. But I felt that was a bit on the nose. And they called them knife ears. That's from something else, isn't it? From what I can tell. Pretty certain that's from something else. And also, side note, on the topic of Elrond, I did a video yesterday where I covered Grace Randolph's review, where she basically said Elrond is essentially gay in this. And I said in that review, I bet you anything this is her weird gay fetish fantasy. She's projecting it onto it. And it's not like that at all. I was completely right. There's no hint of that. I don't know where she got that from. It's very strange commentary from Grace Randolph. Bizarre woman. Very, very bizarre. All in all, this should be good, right? This should be better than it is. And I think that's the best way to put this. This should be better than it is. But it's lacking quite a lot. Now, obviously, I'm going to keep reviewing this show, just like I am with She-Hulk, just like I am with House of Dragon. That's kind of the only ones I'm reviewing weekly at the moment. So I will keep reviewing this. Can't say I recommend it just yet. I don't think I will be able to recommend this. Galadriel she just comes across a bitch. Really stern, just a cow, you know? Just awful. You know, I don't want to watch Game of Thrones where everyone is just awful. And that's kind of what I'm watching. Even Elrond going to go see Durin. Because apparently Durin doesn't realise that, you know, Elrond obviously lives forever. That 20 years isn't really much to Elrond. And hates him as a result of that. And there's a weird, stupid ritual that they've got. That's just, come on. Have some of that earnestness in here. Just like we did with, you know, if you clearly you are trying to replicate Peter Jackson's movies. So bring some of that earnest stuff back. But anyway, that's my review. I can't recommend it. I don't think it's particularly good. I wasted 2 hours of my life on this. So give the video a big thumbs up and probably best not to watch it. But obviously watch it if you want. Cheers. Bye-bye.